It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Pros, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Welcome back to the Full Court Press, second hour here on Reaction Monday. Spent the first hour recapping Utah State football, their loss to the University of Utah. A lot of improvements, but still a loss. Moral victories don't go in the win column. They still go in the losers column, and so the Aggies fall to 1-2. Gave all of our reactions there. Heard some of what Nate Dreiling had to say about, they're close, but they're not there yet, and obviously that's why they now have 2 losses. They'll try and get a second win, and their first win over an FBS team when they take on Temple this Saturday. So we'll get to that. Obviously, we'll have our preview Tuesday, and we'll do all of our stuff throughout the week. But for now, we're going to shift our focus down to high school football, Eric, as we had 4 games. They were broadcast across our family of radio stations and streaming on CashValleyDaily.com. This week we had a few technical difficulties, largely internet connection problems, which is annoying.
Yeah, especially some venues that normally are really solid for us.
Yeah,
so
a problem there.
We heard, believe me, I was as frustrated as all of you in trying to watch or listen to the Green Canyon and Ridgeline game.
Yeah.
That first half was rough. We got it addressed at halftime, and second half was much smoother. But apologies for how that first half came off. We were well aware, and we were trying as many different things as we could, but until they could really take a step down and step away from the broadcast at halftime, could they really address it? So
yeah, I kind of had the same thing at Westfield.
Yeah, you had an issue, same thing down in Ogden.
But one thing that we need to call out about is our bread and butter play of the game. We got our notification from John Newbold what the Skyview Bread and Old Grist Mill bread and butter play of the game is. We're going to go ahead and call for that now because we will be playing it as part of our recaps of all these games with Skyview. So right now we're basically taking it to the text line because we're still working through getting our phone lines to work properly. But text it in, 435-339-0321. If you've got the Old Grist Mill bread and butter play of the game, have a chance to win some free bread.
Ooh, free bread.
Good stuff.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and get started. We're not going to start with Skyview. We're going to start with, let's see which one. Let's go with Bear River. They're the first one on my cut sheet of all these different audio highlights. But looking at Bear River, they were on the road. They were playing out of region this week, Eric. They were taking on Burley from Idaho. So they went not only out of region, they went out of state and were on the road.
Yeah, Bear River was at Burley. They made the trip 2 hours northwest to go take on the Burley Bobcats. And Bear River looking for the first win of the season. This is a team that's had some close games. They got a little bit dominated last week, but this is a team that's been close and competitive in a good number of their games, looking to get over the hump.
Yeah, and they started off fairly well as they were the ones to get on the board first in this game, featuring Reggie Hess.
Bears in the red zone. Chance to get the first points of the game as we are still scoreless with 3:46 to go in the second quarter. Bears now with a tighter formation, just 2 wide receivers. Tyre takes the snap. They're going to try and go over the left side with Hess. Waits for a blocker. Gets a second block. It's a sprint to the pylon. Touchdown, Bear River.
So there you go. Reggie Hess getting the 12-yard touchdown opened up the scoring in that game. Although Burley, they would respond, and we kind of had some back and forth, including some field goals. Burley got a touchdown, but they missed an extra point, so it's 7-6. Then Bear River got a field goal. They go up 10-6 at halftime. But then in the early third quarter, Burley got a 70-yard touchdown. So they go up 13-10, if I'm doing my math right. I did my math wrong when I was writing my notes, so I have to make sure I'm doing this right. But then Bear River tied it up 13-13, so there's a field goal. And then Burley got another field goal themselves. So we're going back and forth having a kicking game. They go up 16-13 early in the fourth quarter. And so Bear River suddenly trailing in the game. They're trotting out there they put their kick return team out there. And Reggie Hess makes another appearance in this one.
Game, and what has turned into a very exciting game. Both sides getting into the game. There's been some controversy with some calls, some flags that haven't gone our way. We'll see if the Bears can overcome that.
Definitely feels like a game of two different energy halves. I mean, the first half felt like it was extremely dragging. This second half has been high-paced and quick.
Reggie Hess on the return. He's got a little bit of room. Nicely blocked up the middle. Can he find a seam? He bounces off one. He's got it to the outside. He's at the 50, the 45, 40. Can they get him 30, 20, 15? Score! Bear Rivers on top.
Yeah, and I would recommend going back and watching that play on CashValleyDaily.com because that was quite a kick return touchdown. Not just the grab the ball, run up the middle, and you just outrun everyone. There was jukes and bouncing off a couple of his own guys.
Very shifty, yes.
Yeah, just an absolutely fantastic run there. 95-yard kick return from Reggie Hess, although he was not done because later he would have another long play in Bear Rivers for Bear River.
Tyre will again motion across the formation. Snap. Hand off up the middle. There's a seam. He's off to the races again. It's Hess. He's at the 30, the 20, the 15. Put it in the books. It's a touchdown.
So there we go. 2 long touchdowns. This one a little bit later. There was a bit of time because the kick return touchdown was with 10:18 to go in the fourth. And the 72-yard touchdown you just heard was at just under 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Again, Reggie Hess with, I think he had 252 all-purpose yards in this game.
Monster game. Great job there by Trent Carter and Josh Tyre on the call on 104.9 The Ranch and CashValleyDaily.com. But really exciting game for Bear River. Being able to get that first win of the season, and they did it in a lot of really good ways. We kind of focused on some really fun and exciting offensive plays, but they did, pretty solid job defensively as well, taking away some things that Burley was wanting to do and coming away with that victory and coming home happy.
Yeah, definitely. 5308 texting in saying, super impressed with Ridgeline's O and D lines, both their size and speed, though they did beat my Wolves. Well, why don't we go ahead and let's. I may have just spoiled that, but I don't know if you're paying. If you check the scoreboard, you've already known. But let's recap that Green Canyon Ridgeline game. And again, this is a matchup, the anticipated one, the two undefeated teams. I imagine when the RPI hasn't come out yet, has it?
I think it comes out tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's these are two teams that you would expect to be pretty high in the RPI when that comes out. Ridgeline, obviously, probably the favorite for the state title, or certainly one of them in the 4A state title run. But Green Canyon said undefeated themselves. Very impressive.
I lied. It came out today.
Oh, did it?
So we'll get into that in a little bit. But let's keep going through the scores.
There we go. So I don't think there wasn't a score in the first quarter, was there? I don't think it started out super fast in this game, but then everything just kind of got broken open. Wait, no, there was a touchdown by Ridgeline early on in the first quarter. And I guess really just the entire first half felt like it was dominated by Ridgeline because they jumped out to a 17-0 lead. And this play, Graham Livingston, who had himself a day, he certainly contributed to that with this play.
As Ridgeline lines up for 3rd and 6. 9:03 to go. Dally from the far side of the field, 3rd and 6, looking to throw, almost sacked. That one right into the hands of Livingston in a triple team, and he breaks down the left side of the field. He's going to take this in for 6.
70-yard touchdown pass from Nate Dally to Graham Livingston. That made it 17-0 or 18-0. I don't know. The scoreboard I think said 18-0, but it was 15 maybe. I don't know. I had a hard time following the score when I was looking at the box score afterward because it didn't match what I remembered from when I was watching the game or watching the game back. But Ridgeline goes up. They go up 3 scores, 2 touchdowns and a field goal. And that certainly played a big part in that. But Ridgeline, they did their best to cut it back because they got it back to 18-14. So here it is in my notes. 18-14. They got a big play of their own, courtesy of their quarterback Peyton Wilson and wide receiver Cody Edelmeyer.
Crew Jones off to the right. Looks like they're going to send a linebacker as well. Now man coverage shown on the near side. Wilson looking to throw. Pocket collapsing. He does go over the top, though. Wide open is Edelmeyer. Cuts to his right. Steps away from the tackle. There goes Cody. See ya.
76 yards, Peyton Wilson to Cody Edelmeyer. So that made it a game. It was suddenly close. Ridgeline got out to a big lead, suddenly cut down by Green Canyon, although Ridgeline would eventually storm back and pretty much put this one away. And wouldn't you know, it was Graham Livingston again.
10:55 to go. Long ball down the left side for Livingston, and that's probably going to do it for this ball game. I don't think Livingston's going to get caught.
Not at all. That man turned the wheels on, and I will happily buy you a drink tonight at the Cash.
Appreciate that.
So there we go. And you can tell from the call that pretty much wrapped things up. There was 2 straight touchdowns from Ridgeline in response to Green Canyon making it 18-14. So this one ends up as a 39-21 final score. Ridgeline takes it.
Yeah, this was the big test. Both teams were undefeated going into it. Both teams had several games where they had dominated their opponents. They both had a game on their schedule that was close, but they came into this one like, okay, well, who really is the top dog in Region 11 and for a lot of other intents and purposes, the state in 4A classification. And Ridgeline made a very strong statement that they are ahead of the Wolves right now this season and trying to be the top team in the state of Utah.
Of course, who knows? We may see the playoffs tell a different story. We saw that last year with Skyview and Green Canyon, where the Wolves lost to the Bobcats in the season, then beat them in the playoffs. So there's always a potential for a rematch and for a change of fortunes for any of these teams. Let's move on to Logan, as they took on Westfield. I got to travel to the new high school. I got to call this game. And it was a battle of teams that were, Logan was 2-2, Westfield 0-4. A couple teams a little bit down on their luck. Logan had lost 2 straight, and Westfield, being 0-4, had lost every game in their school's history, their first ever season. But Westfield pretty much jumped on Logan from the get-go, 20-0 early in the second quarter. This one did not start very well for Logan. They just couldn't get a stop on defense, couldn't get anything going on offense. Though right at the end of the first half, they did get one breath of fresh air to take going into the halftime break.
There you go. So that'll set up 2nd and 5. 3:30 to go here in the half. Grizzlies trailing by 3 scores, 20-0. 2 wide receivers out, 2 Faveros left, and he'll take the snap. He's going to look to his right, though. This throwing long. He's got a man cut. Skylar Jensen, he's on the run trying to win a race to the end zone. He's going to do so. Skylar Jensen.
There we go.
So that was a 72-yard touchdown pass, Easton Favero to Skylar Jensen. As that made it, they got a 2-point conversion after this. A nifty little play there. Reed Olson throwing a 2-point conversion to, I suddenly can't remember who caught it. I want to say it was Mason Birch. But yeah, it gave them something to go on when it was 20-8. But something that I kind of noted to others and even during the post game, Logan was always on the cusp of a comeback, but never truly got there. Although one of the plays that certainly made them feel like they were on the cusp was when they got another score that made it 27-14.
Another handoff to speak of him. Caden Avila right up the middle. I don't think anyone touched him.
That's what I've been wanting them to do. Hit the hole hard. They did a double team with the nose guard up to the linebacker. Just got a little touch on him, and he went untouched in the end zone for that drive.
14-yard touchdown, Caden Avila, sophomore. Untouched, basically. He just ran straight through the line and straight into the end zone. Made it 27-14, but that would ultimately be the final score. There were no scores in the fourth quarter. So Logan always right on the edge. They forced like 3 turnovers in the second half, tackled a punter for a turnover on downs, like a big flip the field or avoid flipping the field by getting the punter down, but never capitalizing on any of those plays. Yeah,
too bad for Logan. A team that in a few games here recently, their youth and inexperience kind of showing out. With opponents being able to get up on them or get the ball, change possession with some turnovers. But these are really valuable opportunities for this Logan team to build. And there is something that is building at Logan. Sometimes it can be a little bit painful in the process.
Yeah.
But you can see that this is a team that is trying to work towards something. And unfortunately, just too slow of a start against Westfield in this one last Friday.
Yeah, and that was the biggest thing because after the second quarter, or after the basically first quarter plus 5 minutes, Logan outscored Westfield 14-7. Like, they were the better team for most of the last 3 quarters. But you play 4 quarters, and that's the problem.
You're right.
The problem for Logan in this case. Final call for Skyview Bread and Butter play of the game. Text it in, or maybe we just won't tell you which, because it's one of these highlights we're about to play. I just won't tell you which one. But you can text in the Old Grist Mill Bread and Butter play of the game now. You have a chance to win some free bread, 435-339-0321. So let's start with the Skyview game against Mountain Crest, and it was a dang good football game. And Skyview, they were the ones to jump out first. They kind of similar to what Ridgeline did to Green Canyon. They jumped out. This one I was getting confused. I was 17-0. It was Skyview who went up 17-0. That's why I was confused, Eric. And that 17-0 start being capped off from this play from Liam Guthrie.
2nd and 10. Now Bird leaves the backfield. Clark all alone. He passes complete to Guthrie on a screen. Breaks a tackle to the 15, the 10, 5. Touchdown, Skyview.
24-yard pass, Jack Clark to Liam Guthrie. John Newbold, Rex Davis on the call there for Skyview. It was a great start for Skyview, although Mountain Crest would not go away quietly, Eric.
No, look, this was we thought the game to pay attention to was the Ridgeline Green Canyon game, but this Skyview Mountain Crest game turned out to be the game of the night because Skyview jumps out early, Mountain Crest rallies, and makes it a really interesting game, especially in the second half.
Yeah, they score 21 unanswered points, and a big part of that was this play, Micah Clements for Mountain Crest.
Through the air for Larson, 39 on the ground.
2nd down and 1 for the Mustangs. Same formation, couple receivers to the right, one to the left, but they've got 2 running backs in the backfield with Larson. Takes the snap, he fakes the handoff. Blitz is on, he throws, he's got a man out there. Caught! It's Clements, wow. I believe. Is that Micah Clements?
Yes, it is.
So Clements with the great over-the-shoulder circus catch for the touchdown. What a pass by Larson.
Absolute beauty.
They have taken the lead.
So yeah, Mountain Crest taking the lead in the third quarter. Micah Clements' 33-yard pass from Braden Larson. And that was absolutely massive for the Mustangs to be able to get on top of Skyview, who are certainly on a roll after beating Logan 62-7 last week. So, but Skyview, well, they had their own response to Mountain Crest. About 4 minutes later, they're able to cap off their drive with this play from Xander Stokes.
3 receivers to the right, 2nd down. Handoff up the middle, big burst, Stokes free, 15, 10, 5, stiff arm, touchdown. from 25 yards out with 42 seconds. Skyview takes the lead back. There's no flags.
That made it 24-21 after that play from Xander Stokes. And Skyview, they would never give the lead back. They kind of had a insurance touchdown, which they ended up needing, from Liam Guthrie. He caught an 11-yard touchdown pass from Jack Clark. Mountain Crest got back within a score late. 2:50 to go in the fourth quarter. Kale Olsen, a 10-yard touchdown reception from Braden Larson. But it wouldn't be enough as Skyview comes away with a 31-28 victory.
Yeah, this was a battle. Great game between these two teams. Storied rivalry. A lot of games played between these two schools. And Friday definitely did not disappoint if you're looking for a fun and interesting game. But let's call out the bread and butter play of the game. If it was in one of those highlights, it was in one of those clips. So 435-339-0321. What was, at the end of the game, Hurricane John Newbold and Rex Davis called out the what would be the Old Gristmill bread and butter play of the game. If you can identify it, let us know on the Full Court Press text line.
Well, 5452 has identified it, and I believe they texted in before we played the clip or as we were playing it, because it was that final one, that Xander Stokes 26-yard touchdown. 5452 texting in saying bread and butter was Stokes' TD to retake the lead. We'll give you that. But yeah, it was a pretty good play there, especially the stiff arm at the end. Obviously not coming through on John Newbold mentioning it, but it was kind of a nasty one where he stiff armed the Mountain Crest defender kind of on the 2 or 3 yard line and then just kind of put him in the turf and then rumbled his way into the end zone from there. So, and a great performance from Stokes, who set a career high in rushing yards. I think he had 142, I think was his total, and a workhorse back where he had like 28 carries. So, great job there from Xander Stokes and the Old Grist Mill bread and butter play of the game, that 26-yard touchdown.
Yeah, so congrats, 5452. Just stop by our offices during regular business hours. We'll get you a certificate for some free bread.
Awesome. Let's see. We're in need of taking a break, aren't we?
Well, yeah, let me just quickly go through some other scores from the high school football weekend, because there was the Box Elder game on Thursday. They lost to Roy 37-10. Close early on, but then Roy just really ran away from it in the second half. Preston goes down to Ogden. Unfortunately, they lose that one 42-20. Westside continues to play well, beating Marsh Valley 30-20. Malad losing to American Falls 36-6. Bear Lake losing to Snake River 41-8. And in a close one, but unfortunately on the wrong end of it, Rich losing to North Sevier 21-20. So you can see the full scoreboard. You find links to some of these games that we were able to broadcast. Photo galleries available as well on CashValleyDaily.com.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to shift back to college.
You need to turn your mic on. I can't.
I turned it off so I could cough, and then I just started talking. Okay, when we come back, as I was saying, we're going to talk college football. We're going to talk realignment, because that's what we do here on the College Football Realignment and Expansion Show, or whatever we call it, College Realignment and Expansion Show, the CRES. So that'll be next for us here on the CRES.
Have you thought about your furnace lately? Of course not. It's hot outside. Now's a great time to start thinking about replacing it or having it serviced for fall and winter. Advanced Heating and Air will help you get some of the industry's best rebates on a new high-efficient York furnace installed in your home. Or one of Advanced Heating and Air's service professionals can service your furnace for the upcoming winter season. Call today, 752-7272, or schedule a free estimate at advancedheating-ac.com. York, install confidence.
Need a reliable partner for your medical needs? Look no further than Triton Medical and Transportation. We offer top quality medical soft goods right here in your community. From incontinence supplies and oxygen needs to medical transportation. Whatever you need to stay comfortable and healthy, we've got you covered. Trust Triton Medical and Transportation, caring for our community with every step, every mile. Call us today at 435-557-6687 or visit us online at mytritonsupply.com. Triton Medical and Transportation, because your health matters.
No matter what the conditions, DD Auto and Salvage can get your vehicle up and off your property. Now is the time to plan to make extra cash by calling DD Auto and Salvage and moving that old vehicle. Let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy to get rid of your junker vehicles, paying you the most money possible. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204 today.
See store for details.
They never could play it, but they sure can talk about it. Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker on the Full Court Press.
Crystal Vision is a 4-time gold medal winner in the Best of Northern Utah. They provide personable, experienced one-on-one care. Stop in today with your prescription and let Crystal Vision fit your glasses to you. You can find them on 14th North by Sportsman Warehouse. You can find out more at crystalvision.com. That's Crystal with a K, crystalvision.com. So, Eric, interesting report I saw, I think it was Sunday, where it was one of the CBS reporters saying that sources had told CBS Sports that the idea of pretty much the rest of the Mountain West joining the Pac-12, or at least all the other 8 teams, aren't necessarily completely out of contention for joining the Pac-12. After we had the disloyal 4 or the fortunate 4, whatever you want to call them.
That's right.
Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and San Diego State. They've all received invites. They've all confirmed it. It's been announced. It's officially official for all of them that they will be joining the Mountain West. But yeah, it was Dennis Dodd saying multiple sources have told CBS Sports that the 8 remaining Mountain West schools remain in play for the Pac-12. They have not been eliminated from consideration. The question is why they weren't announced on Thursday. And kind of in addition to this, I think it was Pete Thamel tweeting it out today that Air Force they're going through the process of looking at joining the AAC, potentially joining that conference, and perhaps more notably, Army and Navy, who are already in that conference.
So yeah, Air Force would be in the American Athletic Conference, which I guess makes sense for service academies to be an appropriately named conference. But yeah, Thamel earlier today saying that they've emerged as a very serious candidate. Apparently, conversations
apparently for months.
Started several months ago. AAC pursuing Air Force as an expansion target. And this happened prior to the Pac-12 taking the fortunate 4 last week. So there's already been some discussion with Air Force about leaving the Mountain West, but not going west, but going further east. And a few years ago, there was already some talk about Air Force with their eyes in that direction anyway. So this doesn't come to much of a surprise. But if Air Force does, in fact, announce here soon that they are leaving, the Mountain West will be down to 7 schools and would need to backfill with somebody else, or else they cannot be classified as a conference.
Yeah, and at that point, you see 2 directions.
Well, I should clarify. They'd be 7 football playing schools, only 6 basketball schools, all other sports.
So they need to pretty much add 2, pretty much at minimum. So at that point, you'd end up seeing one of a couple paths, or depending, you maybe see 3, but you'd see them maybe backfill with some schools. You might see them try and pick off from Conference USA or dip into some teams that are in the FCS. We talked about a lot of those last week, teams like Sacramento State, Tarleton, North Dakota State, the Montana State schools. That'd be your option at that point. Or you could just see the Mountain West get slowly picked off by the Pac-12, where they take the last remaining schools that they like, If they can find a way to get UNLV detached from Nevada, if they decide to take a New Mexico or Wyoming, or even a Utah State, or if maybe they take just one or two schools, then maybe add one from the AAC, and then at that point you'd be left with the Mountain West that's like basically a half FCS conference at that point. If you were to try and backfill the entire league. Or you could go the optimistic route and think, okay, if Air Force goes to the AAC and you have the 4 already going to the Pac-12, then maybe the Mountain West teams all get together and say, all right, you need 9 schools to basically vote to dissolve the conference, and everyone goes their separate ways. If you're being optimistic, then the Pac-12 may just let in teams like Wyoming, New Mexico, Utah State. Optimistic for them, they may end up not taking Hawaii or San Jose State, or may not want Nevada, or they may not want a Utah State. Like, we can't assume that Utah State suddenly makes the cut there.
Yeah,
but
right.
That'd be, at that point, that's kind of your optimistic scenario where the Mountain West realizes, look, the writing's on the wall. Just have everyone go to the new Mountain West, the Pac-12.
Yeah, that's true.
That'd basically be what it would be. It's already going to kind of be that at this point. It's going to be the new Mountain West.
And look, I would love to see Utah State move up, or
is it really moving up, though?
Move over and not be left behind. Maybe that's the better term.
It's like going up one small. It's like you're between 2 rooms and one of them has a slight lip on it, so it goes up. Like, that's basically the step up you're taking.
It's true. But I guess the better way of saying this, I would love if Utah State didn't get left behind. That's maybe the better way of putting it. But these decisions, like Utah State has great academics. It meets criteria for R1. It's a research-based institution. It's got a great basketball tradition. It's got a good arena. But it comes down to money.
Yeah, well, the problem is that
you have a big football stadium, and do you capture a big, or at least a healthy media market? And the answer to, is your football stadium big, and do you capture a big media market? Both of those answers are no, not really.
Yeah, the thing is, you list off all the things Utah State has that are good. Nobody cares about those.
Yeah.
They say they care about them in press releases, but they don't actually care.
Right. If you get the invite, they will for sure list all the accolades they can think of as to why this is such a great thing for the conference to have this new member. But when it comes down to the real nitty-gritty, it's, do you have a stadium that you can sell lots of seats, or at least you get good revenue from the seats that you do have available? And do you bring eyeballs on televisions? And Utah State has been a better program the last 10 years than they were the previous 20 or 30.
50.
Yeah. This is a team that routinely goes to bowls, has competed for conference championships a number of times, but it's just not consistently at the top of the Mountain West where it's must-see TV. If they're playing some random game, do people tune in to say, oh, I want to see what the Utah State Aggies are doing today, unless you have a vested interest geographically in what the Aggies are doing?
Yeah, because if they had one of either lots of revenue for the program or success in football, well, that's basically, on the one hand, Colorado State, who has none of the success in football, but facilities and money, or Fresno State, who doesn't have nearly as much of the money. I don't know, their facilities are solid, but they have the success in football.
Certainly bigger facilities.
Yeah, bigger facilities, better than Utah State. So they have that. Colorado State has the money. Utah State has neither. They get left behind. So the only situation that Utah State ends up in the positive here, at least not being left behind, as you said, is if this scenario, if you want to go with this report and cling to it with all the hope you want, that's the last gasp for Utah State to get into the Pac-12, is if the Pac-12 decides, well, we'll just take most of the teams in the Mountain West. And that's basically your last hope. If that doesn't happen, then Utah State probably ends up in Conference USA, Conference USA, or basically a Mountain West that's reformed out of FCS schools and other Conference USA teams.
Yeah, well, and it may also hinge on what happens with Memphis and Tulane, their decisions. Because if the AAC brings in Air Force, it's a stronger league than it was. It's a healthy league. do Memphis and Tulane, do they need to leave?
Yeah, that is big because
so Utah State's future may depend on people making decisions in Memphis and Tulane.
Yeah, because if they decide not to join the Pac-12, assuming that invitation comes, I'm not saying that's already happened or whatnot, but if they decide that that's not worth it, because for some teams, your Stanford and Cal being in the ACC, they have all that money in revenue. It's a little easier for them financially to make that work geographically. Not so much for Memphis and Tulane. So they may end up deciding that, okay, there may be a slightly higher TV deal, but it's not going to make up for lost revenue and a bunch of other logistical problems moving to play in a glorified Mountain West, which the AAC is already competing with the Mountain West to be the best, Group 5 team in football. They already match up well with that. What's the point of just basically moving to a conference that's just as good as you are for maybe breaking even as far as overall money that you make versus the expenses you have to put into a move like that? So if they decide to tip towards staying, then suddenly the Pac-12 still needs 2 more schools, potentially would want to add 1 or 2 more after that. And at that point, they may just decide to basically have the Mountain West and Pac-12 merge, or just basically have the Pac-12 / Mountain West.
Yeah.
The Mountain Pac.
The Mountain Pac.
Basically, that's kind of the scenario. But again, that's the optimistic one, because there's just as real of a world where Tulane, Memphis go to the Pac-12, it becomes the Pac-8, and they just kind of hang around there for a while. And maybe eventually they find a way to add UNLV and maybe some other school, and they get up to 10. You get back to the Pac-10 the way it used to be. Of course, it was the Pac-8 at one point.
Yeah, it's true.
They've slowly added a number of schools there. But there are just as many, if not more, scenarios where the Aggies still get left behind as there are scenarios the Utah State ends up in the Pac.
Yeah, it's a interesting dance that Gloria Navarez needs to dance right now. Try to balance keeping the conference together. Do they go towards expansion to backfill their losses, or is she also kind of on a side eye working with the Pac-12 and Gould, I think her last name is, the current commissioner of the Pac-12, say, well, let's, instead of you wasting on spending all this money to take these schools, let's just all agree to join together, and you can keep your pile of cash. And then we'll just all be together. And let's just make this one happy family here. Gloria Navarez is probably going to be out of a job.
Yeah, maybe she gets a deputy commissioner job in the Pac.
It might be smart to keep her in some capacity. But so on one hand, she may be trying to work with the Pac-12 and say, look, let's work together here and just combine forces, save yourself a ton of money. But at the same time, she has to go on the other side of her mouth and try to find other schools to come and join them to be a different product, and still try to create a viable conference for an upcoming close over the weekend. And who would have thought I don't know if I could say the closest game, but a team that maybe put in a bit more of a scare on the Aggies was Weber State. Now, the Utah game was close. The BYU game was close. But Weber State actually had a bit of a lead in this one.
Yeah, the first time, to my knowledge, that Utah State has ever trailed this season. And it was early in the second half as the Aggies got out in front 1-0. And then right before halftime, Weber State picked up a goal. And so that was a bit of a surprise there. The Aggies were kind of on their back foot on defense in their previous game against Pacific, a team that they were supposed to take care of, which, they did. They won that game 9-3, but the 3 goals, quadrupled their, the amount of goals they allowed the entire season. But then they allow one to Weber State, who went into the game 1-5, only 1 win on the season. So you'd think the Aggies would have taken care of Weber State, but it wasn't quite going super well, as you mentioned. It was Addie Wykers. She gets the first goal, only 6 minutes in, but then, the next 2 goals were by Weber State. Allie Swenson in the 40th minute, and then Lily Bloom in the 58th minute. That gave Weber State the 2-1 lead, though it wouldn't take long for Utah State to respond, as just about 4 minutes later, I think less than 4 minutes later, Kate Christian gets her 3rd goal of the season by making it 2-2 for the tying that game up. And then just over a minute later, Summer Diamond gave the Aggies the 3-2 lead. And then
what were they saying? Like 100 seconds apart
something like
between those 2 goals.
It was pretty insane, just back to back to tie the game and take the lead. And then 10 minutes later, Austin Miller nabs the insurance goal. The former Green Canyon player gets her 3rd goal of the season, the true freshman, with 3 goals on the season for the Aggies. So Aggies ended up winning that one 4-2. So a bit of a scare, bit of a worry there. Aggies not as dominant in this one. 11 shots in the game, 8 on goal to Weber State's 7 shots, 2 on goal, both of which they converted. So I think this is right now. I mean, the Aggies haven't lost a game, and so I can't criticize them a whole lot. In fact, I'm not really going to criticize them. But we are seeing the Aggies enter the phase of you are getting every single team's absolute best every night.
Yes.
And if you're not playing to the caliber that we've seen this team play, 9 goals in a game. They blew out a team that's currently ranked 18th in the country. You beat them 4-0. If you're not that team, you're going to be at risk of losing. And Utah State should know that, you can be a number 1 team in the country, still lose to some of these teams here in the state of Utah and the Mountain West, because they did that last year to BYU. So, but this is them, I think, learning that process. They've not been tripped up by it. And again, that's why I say I'm not going to criticize them. Because, okay, they've given up 2 goals to Weber State. The scrubs. Oh, my gosh, 2 goals. But it's not up to their standard, and that's why we note it, because it's weird. We've not seen them do that a whole lot. 5 goals in 2 games after allowing 1 goal in 6 games. So we pointed out because it's abnormal for what they've done. But they're going through this process, without having lost. And that's a key for the Aggies.
Yeah, you still get the win. Kind of an eye-opener about can't look past anybody. Have to always play tough. But still, they end up getting the win. New polls will come out, I believe, is it tomorrow?
Yeah, they've come out on Tuesday the last couple of weeks, so I didn't even check today. Maybe they did come out today on Monday, and I'm behind, but they've been coming out on Tuesdays.
Yeah, so they'll I don't know what happened to teams above them in the rankings, but likely to still remain a top 10 team in the country.
Yeah, movement up, like they had a very quick rise into the top 25, going from, receiving votes to 20-something, or did they go straight to 18? They might have gone from unranked to 18 or close to
18
it.
or 19, yeah.
And then they went to 11, and now they're down to 9. But obviously once you get this high, the margins for moving up get a little slimmer. Teams ahead of you have to lose, or you have to win spectacularly. And it's going to be harder and harder for the Aggies to win spectacularly because, again, they're getting every team's best shot. So moving up is probably not going to happen near as much. I'd be surprised if the Aggies make it into the top 5 just because they'd have to go undefeated. And I just don't see that happening. As much as that'd be fantastic. It's going to go undefeated to the regular season and conference tournament. Probably not going to happen.
That's a tall order.
Because every team is going to be saying, all right, this is our first top 10 win in school history.
Right.
They're going to be looking at that and saying, all right, this is our chance.
They want to be the ones to knock you down. They've got Washington State.
Yeah, that's
coming here. What is that, Thursday?
I think so. I
think it's Thursday. Washington State's in town, 4 o'clock.
Yep.
Dress warm. It's going to be a little bit cool. But show up Thursday afternoon, 4 o'clock at Chuck and Gloria Bell Field.
It's going to be happening during our show, so you can best bet we're going to be watching that game.
Yes, we'll be keeping an eye on
We'll
it.
have the stream up during our show. keeping an eye on that game. Let's go ahead and take a break. We got another text coming in, so we'll get to that and we'll wrap up the show. Coming up next here on the Full Court Press, finally get around to talking about that 4-star recruit men's basketball team landed.
Yes,
that's a nice one. So we'll have that next on the Full Court Press.
This is Brent Wallace with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account, and if you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors, and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
What is love? Love is what we live for. Love is timeless, never-ending. Love is when you say your name with hers and it has that special ring to it. At Jarek's Fine Jewelry, we know what love is. Our fine collection of engagement rings feature a variety of diamonds and colorful styles.
And if you can't find your perfect ring,
Jarek's Fine Jewelry will help custom design one that is the perfect fit. When it's love, it's Jarek's Fine Jewelry.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special. Make it Jarek's.
This is Jordan with Primrose Home Care and Hospice, and I'm here with Barbara. Barbara, how did you become acquainted with Primrose?
I had been trying to get another company to come and help me, and I had waited about 2 weeks, and I needed a bath. My neighbor suggested that she would make a few phone calls, and that very afternoon, Mark Stokes was sitting in my front room, and he said, "What do you need?"
Primrose Home Care and Hospice. We're your home team.
The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools, the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Wrapping things up here on the Full Court Press with Jason Walker, Eric Frandsen. If you missed part of the show, you can check us out in our podcast feed. We'll have that up shortly after the show. One thing we mentioned a couple times, we had some people text in about it, but the Aggies men's basketball landing a 4-star recruit. Although before we do that, actually, we missed a text from back at the beginning of the hour. Actually, we were getting into high school football. But 4781 asking, my question is, do you think USU would be 2-1, maybe 3-0 had the offseason firing and shakeups not occurred? The answer to that, I think, is Utah State would still be 1-2.
Yeah.
Blake Anderson is not the difference in a 48-0 game or a 38-21 game.
Right. Could it have maybe a little bit better effect on offense in their game against Utah? Maybe. I don't think maybe. I think yes would be the answer to that. But would it have been enough to get the victory? Probably not. So I don't know that the team record would be any different today had that those firings not occurred this summer. So down the line, later in the season, I don't know. We'll have to see. But I don't think it would have had any. The record would be no different in my mind at this point of the season.
Yeah. 9-3-1-5 saying, what are the odds that in 2 or 3 years there's more conference realignment, that the Pac-2 wasted the money to buy teams because they get broken up? The problem is I don't see any conference realignment that affects group of 5 conferences. Like there'll be a bit of shakeup like over the next couple of years because we've got teams moving from the Mountain West to the Pac-12. We've got AAC looking to grab Air Force. There's a bit of group 5, G5 movement. But once that finishes, things are going to settle down, I think, for the G5 for a while because they'll have mostly sectioned themselves off largely into 2 conferences. And most realignment at that point is just going to be the P4 conferences.
The main power brokers.
As they begin to, as they continue to consolidate the best teams.
Yeah. Well, Kyle Whittingham last week all but guaranteed there would be more conference realignment coming. And I think there might be some growing movement behind the scenes to this idea of let's just carve out football as a separate thing, and then all other sports can be in more regionally make sense conferences. I think there's going to be some growing movement and momentum to that idea. after a few years with the way that these conferences are currently formulated. But the Pac-2, they still had to spend some money to reform their conference. And they had to do it kind of on a short timeline, or Washington State, Oregon State would have to be declared independent, and you couldn't use the Pac-12 as a conference anymore.
Yeah, just go away. Or I guess you could technically revive it, I guess, if nobody stole all the trademarks and whatnot.
Right, true.
But real quick, as we wrap up the show, Adlan Elamin, I don't know how to say Elamin. At Bishop O'Connell High in Virginia. He's a 4-star recruit, 6'8" wing or 6'7", 6'8", depends on who you ask at this point. High school heights are pretty unreliable, but long, kind of skinny right now, but he's a senior in high school, so you can kind of give him a break there. But he's a guy that has a lot of potential. I mean, 4-star recruit by pretty much every recruiting database that I looked at, where he's got a lot of potential. One of the highest recruits in Utah State history. That doesn't always mean a lot, but it at least means something. It means that player has potential. There's a lot of eyes on him. So Jared Calhoun, I believe this is his first high school commitment. I think. Well, no, Isaac Davis technically would have been.
Yeah, that's true.
So I guess first beyond this offseason. So it's first of the future, not impacting this season. And so seems to, and this guy, he was getting offers from teams like VCU, so winning over Ryan Odom. I know Aggie fans are pumping their fists over that one. And then Iowa, of course, the team Utah State plays this year, so you can, I don't know, wave that in their face. Especially if you lose, maybe just be like, well, we got the 4-star recruit, you may have beaten us. Or maybe they'll take that as a consolation or as a prize. They'll say, we may have lost the recruit, but we won the game.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so... 4-star recruit. That sounds nice. But here's a guy that's got a good size. Needs to fill out his body a little bit more. But
get a few sandwiches.
You're right. Yeah, that's right. You can send him over to the Aggie ice cream after practice every day.
There you go. Maybe that's what convinced him, because I believe he was on a visit.
Oh, there you go.
And so maybe he visited Aggie ice cream. Like, there we go. Perfect.
So it seems like a solid recruiting win for Jared Calhoun and his staff. We know how he can build a roster out of not a whole lot that's coming back out of the transfer portal, but how can he build a roster through high school recruits? So this is the first really good sign to that.
Yeah, because you want to be able to have those homegrown guys. I know that the theory now is just going to be that, you bring in a guy and you have him for 1 or 2 years and then he transfers. Well, even if they do that, you still got to bring him in. You still got to bring him in and have him play good. And if they're transferring out, it's usually because they either didn't work out or they were really good for you, in which case you were able to enjoy their services for at least 1 or 2 years. So either way, you want to keep these guys coming. You want to have these guys coming and playing for you. And, if they don't work out, they don't work out. That's nothing new. There have always been players who don't work out. And if they transfer out, well, there's nothing you could have done anyway.
Yeah. But still, you try to give them in the system and give them a chance, give them an opportunity, and see where they go, and hopefully they stick around and reward you for the investment you put in them.
Yeah, and also a final note of the show. Apparently Utah's pro lacrosse team, the Archers, they won a second straight league title.
I saw that over the weekend.
So there we go. We're going to have a parade or something, or a rally.
Go lacrosse.
That's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for listening to us here on the Full Court Press.
The home for Skyview Sports. Sports Talk Radio, KLGN Logan, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.